Hi everyone, it's me, Amanda. Welcome to my channel. This is my trusty sidekick, Rowan, who is passed out right now because today we're kind of having a sick day. The weather here has been just rocking bad. We're flooding and stuff. And for those of you who understand what chronic illness is like, this kind of weather just rocks it. It causes flares. And so I'm in the middle of a flare right now, which is the reason for the bathrobe and the blanket and the sleepy dog. But I wanted to come on and I wanted to talk about some things. First and foremost, if you go in the descriptions, there is a way to support my mission. Um, Around November and December, donations tend to dry up, but the need doesn't. The need actually escalates because of the cold weather, things like that. So, and if you want to shore up your area, find out what services are there, connect those services, learn more about evidence based treatments. I also put my email address in there so you can contact me with those things. If you would like me to come to your area and talk, or we can get harm reduction started for those of you who have, very little harm reduction, we can work on that. So I just wanted to offer that. It's there. Okay. So, first and foremost, tomorrow is Harm Reduction Sunday, and I'm going to be going out and not only taking photos, but I wanted to thank those of you who continually send warm stuff. We got another 12 really warmy blankets going out tomorrow, innumerable scarves, all these things. So, and I actually, because I'm ill, I spent time yesterday making scarves. It's just something easy to do. And like I said, I'm learning that arm knitting thing and I got it figured out. Yay. Um, but there will be things going out and that's really, really exciting. Um, let's see. There's a few things that I think we need to discuss as communities. And what brought things to mind to discuss today was because of the flooding and the rainy weather and things like that. And I want to talk about some things that normally aren't thought about when we think about those that are unhoused. And one of those things is runoff. Um, I think that a lot of people don't think or have an understanding of the just toxicity of the ground in urban areas. Um, we understand it in the context of being housed and having contact with it, but there's very little research and very little attention that's been paid to the people who are directly living in it. So when we get these rainfalls and things like that, we've already had a breach of like a septic or sewer thing in the waters, and we have old roofs that have runoff, so that's heavy metal contaminants. We've got the cars that are going by. A lot of people live under bridges, and those things change in wet. So when we're looking at like emissions and things like that, a lot of times we tend to think about it going into the air and air pollution, but a lot of times what we don't think about is that it settles. And those chains of hydrocarbons, they change with the weather. So when it's really wet and it settles into the soil, it becomes very toxic. When it's cold, it becomes very toxic. Not that it's not toxic anyway, but the levels of toxicity and the way it changes affect the human body in really rockin' bad ways. It first and foremost, there's because I'm doing a lot of research on this and I'm actually writing a research paper on this because I think it needs to be brought to the attention of our legislators and our officials. Hello, Pasha. Nice to see you on here. Um, but I think even though, I've noticed during this research that very, very little attention is paid we pay attention to the flora and fauna. So here's the thing. We understand pretty deeply how these pollutants affect the flora and fauna in the area. Like, we know how it affects animals that live in the area. We know how it affects like raccoons and rats and squirrels and any innumerable water, like orcas and salmon. We understand all that. And we talk about it and we research it and we understand like plants and how they absorb things. And like, one of the things I always told the kids, you know, when we were not kids, they're youth, but they're young adults. And the one thing I always told them, because I like fresh mushrooms, and it was great because they were growing everywhere. And I realized you can't eat those. Fungus tends to soak up what's in the soil. And so you don't want to be contaminated with heavy metal. So, as much as it's wonderful that we've got these beautiful mushroom patches, you got to be very, very careful. Um, but yeah, I was so excited one time when I found shaggy manes, and I was like, oh my gosh, because that's one of my favorite kinds of mushrooms is the shaggy manes. Um, so yeah, but we don't understand, or we do understand how it affects the human body, but we don't think about the people that are directly living in it. A lot of times when we think about that population, we're thinking about what that population is contributing to the environment or taking away from the environment. And we don't understand or think about the impact that the community is doing to the environment that's affecting their health. And the issue with that is it primarily affects those that are unhoused, those that are in informal housing, which would be like tiny homes, Tent City 3, shelters are informal housing or an informal shelter. Insecure shelter, in other words, houses that are falling apart, such as in like Flint when they had lead exposure, things like that. That's insecure housing. Like their housing was toast because of that. You couldn't sell a house with lead in your pipes. That's just the thing. And the lead came from outside of that. So we also have to look at liability, where that lies. And when it comes to toxicity in the urban environment, that is the responsibility of the government. And when we look at these people that are being affected by this, we're seeing extremely high long-term costs due to the toxicity, something that they can't do anything about. Nothing. You can't get out of it, because if you go way out in the woods, there are people that can survive out there with nothing. And I know as human beings, we like to think that we could just go out in the middle of nowhere and we'd just do fine and we'd survive and it'd be great. But in all honesty, there are very few people that can do that. And I understand the pull of thinking that it's super easy, and because that's the thing, the people that can do it make it look easy. That's like one of the things, they know how to do it, so it looks easy, but it's not. You have to, especially unhoused, you have to be near resources or you're not going to get housed. That's just the way it is. You have to be near a a, a program or something that's going to help lift you up. Otherwise, you're going to be literally building all your resources. And in this society, a lot of us are what's called plant blind. In other words, we don't know what's edible. We don't know what has the vitamins we need, things like that. So if there ever was a severe food shortage, we wouldn't know what to do. And that's a significant issue. So you can't have people, who don't understand what the thing is to survive out there. And it primarily affects those who are vulnerable anyway, those that are underemployed, those that are victims of domestic violence, minorities, brain injuries. Over half of unhoused individuals have brain injuries, and I totally get that. I've had five. um, I'm going to address some comments real quick. Prajwal Sharma. Hey, Amanda, what are you doing these days? Are you employed? Absolutely employed. I've been employed for a long time. I have my own business called Being, and that's what I'm talking about when I say if you would like to support my mission. That's Being, that's going towards um, not only getting out there and doing the things we need to educate people to get out there and do whatever needs to be done. That's it's a wide array of things, but also getting life-saving resources to those who need it, and letting people know what those resources are. Thank you, Kate. So that's one span of what I do. The other one is I'm a community liaison for the City of Seattle Department of Neighborhoods, and that's what that does is we get contracts. So like my contract for January is actually a very cool one. It's urban forestry, and what we're going to be doing is getting the input from different demographics. So we have community liaisons for each demographic, and I'm the unhoused. So I take things to the unhoused communities, those that are insecurely housed, those that are most at risk of being unhoused, and I get their input about these city measures that are really important. It's important for everybody to have a voice. I really truly believe in that. I'm also obviously a YouTuber, and I know, and this is the thing that kind of irritates me. I'm not even gonna lie. A lot of people don't think it's real job, but for those of you that don't think it is, get in front of the camera, start doing it. There are some days it's hard. It is hard to realize I need to get out here and I need to educate people and I need to talk about some very, very important subjects. But like today, I'm in a bathrobe and a blanket because I'm ill, and that's not always easy to come on and talk about that and be there and be like, hey, these things need to be done, but my hair's all a mess and I look, those things are not easy, and it is a job. Whether you like that job or not, it is a job. Um, so there's that. I'm also a painter and a photographer. And one thing that I love about doing those is that's kind of my calming. And 20% of all of my sales from that go to NGOs. And so it's a way, here's what I believe. I believe whatever you choose to do, whatever, if you are employed by somebody else, if you are employed by yourself, or if you're just working to survive, because that's work. And I can't even get with the people that don't think that being in the largest trauma of your life and literally being at risk of death daily is not work. Um, so yeah, but I also think that no matter what you do, you can make an impact. For example, last night wasn't feeling good, so I was able to use my hands though. And I made a chunky scarf through arm knitting. I did also crochet and then ended up with cramps throughout my hands, and my hands hurt now, but there's always something. There's always something. If I'm painting, I can give something back. If I'm taking picture, I offer, like, I was very excited because Seattle Dogs had an article written about them and my photographs were used. And so it's getting the word out there. But when I do it for like Laura and stuff, that's completely no cost. When I go out with my camera, like different NGOs, and I'm doing that, I'm doing it from a place of giving back and knowing that those things help and those things make things better. So that's what I do. I do, I hate saying employed or working or whatever, because I do everything I can in my life to be a better human being and bring a sense of being better to the world. And so that's really important to me. And I think that and I see a lot of times, especially in unhoused services, this whole sense of dignity by being employed. Number one, dignity comes from having your basic human needs met. I have felt completely undignified at several positions I've held in the past, but I've never felt more undignified than when I couldn't shower or care for my basic hygiene or had greasy hair and there was nothing I could do about it. That's not dignified. It was undignified for me to have to live under a bridge. That's undignified. Employment does not equal dignity. And we can see that when we look at the suicide and mental health counts of many employers. And what brought that to mind as well is there is a company in France right now that is being charged in the deaths of their employees. They've had 35 employees commit suicide. And everybody is just blown away. And I think they're blown away because there was actually accountability in this case. But I'm not blown away because I already knew that 189 people called 911 from Amazon. I think it was last year with suicidal ideation, needing emergent help because they were going to end their lives because of what? The dignity of their job? So quit it with that. I mean, it just drives me absolutely phenomenally insane to hear that. Um, there are a lot of things that contribute to dignity. There really is. But I'm not going to say that employment is one of them. Employment can give you a sense of dignity in the fact that it can provide for your basic needs. But if you have employment and you can't shower and you can't have your basic needs met, I will tell you right now that you're not going to feel dignified. You're going to feel exploited. You're going to feel taken advantage of. You're going to have the issues. Like I remember from when I was a single parent, bawling my eyes out before work and after work, wondering how I could make it another day. And that's why I say as well, when people say, well, is that the worst experience of your life? I will, being unhoused, I'll say, no, it's not. It's definitely not the worst experience of my life. I think that that experience took a lot of perseverance and courage that I didn't think was within me. I really didn't. I'm still sometimes in awe of that woman that went through that because I mean, the thing is as we grow and change as human beings, but I look at myself outside of myself and I look at that woman that went under the bridge and went to medical appointments bawling about how she was still smart and why couldn't she figure this out, and why, and them holding me through it and being like, hey, you are worth saving a life. Your life is worth saving. And you're going to save that by making sure you make your medical appointments. You're going to save your life by keeping yourself alive to make those medical appointments and heal. And they were right. But then on the outside, when I was doing that and I had to hold a sign, me myself, I was like, that was the most dignified thing that I could do in that situation. I was sick. I would be a liability to any employer that dared hire me at that juncture in my life. And I think that's a lot of what people don't understand too is liability to companies. Um, Depending on what the disability is, there can be a liability to that company. When you have someone who has attention issues and you put them in like say a restaurant scenario. One of the jobs I tried to get after my brain injury was at a restaurant until I kept cutting myself and burning myself because just like when I was in the encampment, I would go to habit, which was to grab what was on the stove, but it wasn't a stove, it was a fire. So we had to keep big bottles of vinegar by the fire because it was it was a thing that I had to really go through, was consistently forgetting that I couldn't grab the handles and I would burn myself really bad. And so my campmates were really great about understanding that and making sure that I had remind me to use pot holders. Um, you know, and that's how encampments work. It's like this community that that if you care about one another, which most of us I think in the communities did, is, you know, they can tell, they know what I did for them or whatever, but I think it's important for me to say what they did for me. Um, because I think a lot of attention was given to the camp mom and all of these things, but I think not enough attention was given to the people that were my backbone for making it through it. For example, Gypsy. Um, One of the things that was a big deal was having the vitamins I needed for to get better from the brain injuries. And one of those things I really loved and helped a lot was called it's this chocolate almond milk that I really liked. And Gypsy would make sure, sorry, Gypsy would make sure that when she got her food stamps, she would buy me a thing of silk almond milk to keep me healthy. Um, Derek Austin Gypsy always made sure there's vinegar by the fire. Pot holders reminding me to take my meds every morning. Liz does that now, but it's such an important thing to have this community. And there's some really great people out there, but it does change you and it does make you hard to those that have continually. The thing is we judge by our experiences. So say you're standing out there with a sign and 5 people come and give you some change in a dollar and 100 people glare at you, say you're on drugs, and give you dirty looks. Your experience starts to be overshadowed. I'm really lucky because I can pay attention to the good stuff. Like most of the time, I can shut that negative stuff like. But I know that it gets very trying. You know. Um, Kate, how's Gypsy doing? Did she find a new place to live? Not yet, and she's really going through it. Um, it's difficult. It's kind of thrown her world into the shambles, and it's really difficult. She's going through depression right now. Yeah, it's hard. It's difficult for her to even know where to find a place because she's going to need room for the dogs. And this is happening all over. I'm hoping that her case managers are able to help her out with that. So yeah, that's a difficult thing, and it's going to be definitely a huge change in my life. Um, I really do have a pretty good, loving support system, but you know, there are struggles people don't even think about. Like food. You know, those that are disabled and have a housing voucher, a lot of times they're not on federal disability. So food is an issue. And then, there's the executive functioning that goes out and they forget to renew it. And so then it's food banks and relying on one another. And I think that's why it's so important to like invest in people. People should have food. People should have housing. People should have clean water. People should have the chance to heal. Hi, Amanda. I was thinking about buying a bunch of menstrual cups to donate to the local shelter. Do you think this is a good idea? Honestly, I'm not sure. Um, I know that menstruation products are huge. We need them all the time. We have this amazing NGO called T2P2, and it's what is it? towers of tampons and pyramids of pads. It's really kinda cool. Um, and they even have cards where if you're out there and you call them, they will come deliver them to you. I wish I would have known about this service a long time ago. What I worry about the menstrual cups is I think at a shelter, it would be great. Um, I think there's a lot of people that would need, of course, to know how to use them. Um, I do. I think at a shelter it'd probably be good. I just don't know about the hygiene level of outdoors because you always have like, it's it's just difficult. It is. It really is. I don't know how great, but yes, donating to the local shelter, I think it'd be great. And I think that, anything we can do to help make it a little easier and things, that's great. Um, and the reason I don't know is because I don't know a lot about menstrual cups. I've never used them. So, yeah, it's definitely something to look into. Thank you for that. That is a good question. I appreciate that. Um, does anybody else have any questions before I get going? Um, I'm gonna kinda binge today. Tomorrow, like I said, is harm reduction. We're gonna do like a little Christmas thing. I will be there. Of course, got tons of supplies to donate. I'm also donating what's left of my grandchildren's diapers and clothing as they've grown past the point of they're going to use them. So there's going to be a lot of donations this Sunday, and I'm really excited about the work that we're doing with harm reduction. Oh, by the way, that's another nonprofit that I'm a consultant for. I'm a consultant for One Health Research. I'm a consultant for Seattle Harm Reduction Coalition. There's a few, but that's another really great organization. Harm reduction is so important. Our life expectancy as in the United States has dropped due to the opioid epidemic. It is time to get active. And that's what I put in the description as well is if you in your area, if you're looking for education, if you're looking for help setting up harm reduction, if you're looking whatever you're looking for, contact me. We will help get it set up. I will help do what it takes to contact the different people. I will help out. So there's an email address in there. Um, Please, if you can, there's a PayPal link there. Please donate if possible. The donations could really be used at this time. Um, Marcos, how am I today? Well, little under the weather, but I feel like I'm handling it like a champ. I feel like, um, yeah, I feel like I'm going to take the day to rest and regroup, and then tomorrow, bam, at it again. And then Monday is Seattle Dogs Homeless Program, where people get their prints of the unhoused dogs photography shoot that I did. And oh, if you want to join me on Instagram, I'm actually going to type in the Instagram in there so that you can see kind of some of the work that I do. And I'll put in, hold on, I am Amanda J. Richer on Instagram. I am being Camp Mom. Um, on on Facebook. On Facebook, I am also Amanda J Photography on Facebook, and I'm also Amanda J Artistry on Facebook. That's me. Pretty much just trying to do whatever I can to just make the world a better place and do it the best way I know how, which is utilizing any and all skills that I have. So, and learning new ones. And that's another exciting thing too, is just the learning that goes on. So, anyway, I appreciate you all. It's been like a half hour, so I'm going to go refresh my coffee and just relax and prepare for the holiday season. Because all of that is coming up. So, anyway, you guys have a beautiful, beautiful day. I appreciate you all, and I will talk to you later. Bye.